Welcome to the Less Doing podcast, where you will learn how to start living more by doing less.
Let me help you optimize, automate, and outsource your entire life so you can focus on doing the things you love.
Now here's your host, Ari Meisel.
Welcome back to the Less Doing podcast. I'm your host, Ari Meisel, and my very, very special guest and good friend, Joe Polish, is here with me today. So, Joe, thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to talk to me.
You are welcome, Ari. Good to be here.
I am welcome. I appreciate it.
This is probably the most exciting thing that's going to happen to you all day. Is what I just wanted to point out.
If any of you have been following my stuff for a long time, you've definitely heard of Joe before. Joe was one of the great speakers at the first Less Doing Live event in 2015. He's been on the podcast a bunch of times. I've been on his. I can do a full intro, but so Joe has the Genius Network, which is the highest level group for marketers in the entire world, and brings in the most amazing, talented, accomplished speakers ever to really multiply their efforts. But he's got a lot of other interests as well, including addiction recovery and really just helping, entrepreneurs in general. But so, Joe, nowadays, when someone asks you, what do you say?
I still try to figure it out. I wish I had the perfect elevator pitch or things along those lines, but
the 6-word intro.
Yeah, what's really interesting is a lot of people try to think they have some articulate thing down all the time. Like, for instance, when people ask me about recovery as an example, I say I want to change the global conversation about how people view and treat addicts with compassion instead of judgment, and find the best forms of treatment that have efficacy and share those with the world. So that's exactly what I do in the field of addiction recovery with geniusrecovery.com and then artistforaddicts.com, which are two platforms that I've created. As far as helping entrepreneurs, I help build a better entrepreneur. And Genius Network is a tribe of tribal leaders, and we just bring them together and have very interesting conversations about shit that's going to help them be better, not just making more money and getting better clients, but also getting the right types of clients, getting the right type of work, so you can have what I call an ELF business, easy, lucrative, and fun, versus a half business, which is hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating. And that happens by organizing the very best discussion groups that have a lot of free flow conversations based on topics to help people figure out what needs to be solved in their life and bring in the smartest people. Because I say, in order to have a genius network, which any problem in the world can be solved with the right genius network. And I just bring that genius network to people. And in order to have a genius network, you got to do genius networking, meaning you have to connect with other people with skills and capabilities and brilliant ways of going about doing stuff in order to be the most productive and the most effective. And, it's an activity. To have a genius network, you have to be a genius networker, and you got to do genius networking. And so I'm a genius networker, and a lot of people are not. So I bring them all together and I provide the network for them. And then, it's not the lowest priced group in the world. It's very high priced compared to what some people would look at a seminar or whatever. However, it's probably the best investment that any of my clients that take it seriously could ever make, because they're going to pay $25,000 a year for Genius Network or $100,000 a year for Genius X, but they're going to spend that much money. They're going to waste that much money on things they're going to pay for anyway. And in a lot of ways, we save them the hassle, keep a lot of people from being advertising victims, transform people's lives with their health and how they spend their time and who they spend their time with, and getting them to drop stuff that doesn't help them, all that sort of ways. And that's how, of course, we take things like what you're doing and we combine the skills and capabilities with everyone. And it, so you help a lot of our clients. You obviously get a lot of clients and a lot of connections. If you just look at the first domino, I'm the first domino for a lot of people. They come into my world, I introduce them to certain people, and then all of the stuff they want to have happen has this cascading effect. So that would be kind of a spiel of what it is that I do.
So though, I've never heard you describe yourself as the first domino, which I think that's actually a really interesting descriptor, because so one of the things that I talk about with Less Doing is that, we know, I mean, I didn't create this. Obviously, people know that multitasking doesn't really exist. But one of the things I talk about is parallel tasking. And with parallel tasking, what I akin it, or what it's sort of related to, is this idea that you sort of flick the domino, right? That first domino, and then you kind of go back to what you're doing. So that
Right.
idea of you being the first domino is interesting to me. And I would also point out that, as much access as you have to talent and learning and information, and how you've incredibly successfully built this business up from nothing, completely, from your own druthers, basically, you're still an incredible student, and you're always learning too.
Oh yeah. I mean, I school's never out for the pro, I guess, is the cliche. And by the way, Patrick Gentempo is the one that actually gave me the term "the first domino" when he described what it is that I do. I actually own the URL now, thefirstdomino.com. We haven't done anything with it yet. Maybe I should outsource that to you and have that.
Yeah, sure.
Seriously, but it's. But I constantly pay for education. I mean, I've been a strategic coach for over 20 years. I'm part of a lot of different groups. And, a lot of what the right groups do is they don't cost any time and they don't cost any money. Education is painfully slow, especially if you try to do it on your own. And I'm also a big believer that unlearning is more important than learning. So a lot of people are running around trying to learn stuff, and I run around trying to unlearn the things that I thought were so that are not, and things
Right.
that I thought were useful that were not. And I mean, even in the field of like outsource as an example, there's conditioning in me that wants to hold on to things that make it difficult at times for me to delegate or to let someone else do it. And so all of the stuff that is needed, strategy and processes and methodologies and skills and talents and capabilities to do pretty much almost anything you want to do, given in a free country like America, is out there. The question is, to what degree are you resourceful? To what degree are you able to access resources? And to what degree are you able to let go of all the bullshit that prevents you from accessing it? And so, there's a lot to immersing yourself in new perspectives, new forms of education, new forms of ways of getting things done. And when I pursue knowledge, read a book, go to an event, get involved in a group discussion, more than anything, I'm just trying to shift my perspective, because once I have a different way of looking at things, I can get things done. So a lot of people are looking for the to-dos or what to do and all that. And as it all started with Dean Jackson, we started doing a lot of podcast episodes, a couple years ago about who versus what. People try to figure out what to do, but if you find the right who will bring the what with them. And then you can, so spending more time finding who's versus trying to learn what to do is always a more effective way to get done what you want to get done. If you're a growth-minded entrepreneur, some people are not growth-oriented; they're lifestyle-oriented. So I'm an achievement entrepreneur, not a lifestyle entrepreneur. So achievement entrepreneurs can either be on treadmills if they don't know what the hell they're doing, or they can be on ladders and they can keep going higher. And then lifestyle entrepreneurs just try to keep everything as balanced and as peaceful and as, support their lifestyle. But those people bore the shit out of me. So I like people that are achievement entrepreneurs.
Sure, of course, that makes sense. And also, I'll just point out for a second here that one of the reasons that Joe and I are talking now, because he's been on the podcast a few times, is that coming up June 20th to the 22nd, we have our next Less Doing live event in LA, and Joe will be there not only as a speaker, but as a participant. And so Joe was at the very first Less Doing live event, and so it's going to be great to have him back. These events are 3-day events where we set the foundation. The second day is really a master class, and that's part of where Joe's going to be speaking. And that third day is all about implementation. So, and you can find out more about that in the show notes. When you are talking to either young entrepreneurs or any entrepreneurs or people in the network or that are not, just people that you meet and they have some sort of challenge, is this, and since you said you sort of have to unlearn some things, is your sort of initial reaction typically like you need to basically find the who and then figure it out from there? Or, how does that usually go?
Well, yeah, I mean, it'll eventually get there. In most situations, like if someone wants to talk to me or they want to, first off, putting someone in a resourceful state of mind of where they're currently at is useful. So and as you know this in Genius Network, when we start every Genius Network meeting, we typically start with a discussion on a positive focus, which is a methodology from Dan Sullivan, which is getting everyone of, what's going on right now in your life that's positive, even if someone's going through a shitstorm. Where are they at right now? So a place to really open someone up and get them into a place of being able to listen. Like, for instance, the whole concept of learning, a lot of people don't know how to learn. I mean, they're very
Sure.
poor at learning. They can read a lot of books and they can go to a lot of seminars, but they're not even in a place where the soil is prepped, where anything can grow out of it. So getting someone's brain into a place where it can absorb, it's kind of like a stomach that's completely full. You can't shove more food in it and expect the digestion to be very, efficient and effective. So the mind is no different. A person can't be utterly exhausted and then you're sitting there trying to give them things that are going to help them work. So starting with a positive focus is always a good way to go into any sort of conversation. Then we ask people, where are you? Where do you want to go? How are you going to get there? I mean, we'll ask why they want to do some of the things they do, but that's always a great way to open 3 questions. Where are you right now? Tell the truth. Where do you want to go? And how are you going to get there? And if people can tell me where they're at and where they want to go, then I can guide them on how to get there based on what's the outcome that we're looking for. So I always, and I'll say this to people all the time. If you are reading a book, if you're attending a seminar, if you're listening to a podcast, do it from the frame of reference of what needs solved. So the things that I do throughout the day, the people that I seek out, like when I'm going to go to your event as a student and what I'm going to share with people, just so if we're going to utilize this as a way to say, hey, you should come to this thing and meet this dude named Joe Polish. What I'm going to talk about is, what I'm going to talk about, people don't even know yet. They have to wait till they're there, and then I'll surprise them. One of the themes that I'm going to talk about is how to have an ELF business, which is an easy, lucrative, and fun business versus a half business, which is hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating, or hard, annoying, lucrative, and frustrating. Because some people make a lot of money, but they have to literally bleed to death every day, mentally, metaphorically speaking. And easy, liberating, and fun in your personal life, easy, lucrative, and fun in your business life. And there are ways to set up an actual ELF business. So those are some of the things that I will share and what I will talk about. And a lot of that's a mindset. And of course, a lot of this comes from me having, intentionally or unintentionally, subconsciously or consciously, having spent, many, many years. I mean, I've had my marketing company since 1994. I've worked with some of the smartest entrepreneurs on the planet. I've made tens of millions of dollars. I mean, there's a lot of experience and a lot of lessons and a lot of learning. And a lot of that is helping people to avoid a lot of the stupid shit that I got myself in. I've made a million, mistakes, and I've gone down paths that hopefully my experience will remind some people not to go into it or maybe prevent others. And there's been a tremendous amount of stuff that I've done right. But the ultimate question is what needs solved. That's what to ask yourself. That's what to ask. I ask clients, what needs solved and whatever. And if they can get clear on what they want to solve, or at least if they're not clear, I can be that sounding board. We can have that discussion, then we can solve it, or we can at least start taking the steps in order to solve it. So it's one of the greatest questions. And one of my actual clients, Mike Aguilera, actually is the one that I first had that conversation with about what needs solved. And it's a great way when you're overwhelmed. If you're overwhelmed with, oh my God, there's so many things to read, so many events to go to. So if someone's going to come to your event, if they came to it with, okay, here's what needs solved. And a lot of times people don't know what needs solved. They get so overwhelmed that they don't even know how to think about it, which is why you should not worry alone. I mean, you can if you want, but it's kind of painful. So if you can worry with other people, the worry will go away. I heard a line the other day, which is fear is just excitement without the breath, where you can get very excited about things, but if you're just stressed, and you're not breathing through it, then you're not reacting to life. You're responding to life. So, yeah.
In your business right now, like what's a challenge for you?
Building a team right now, building a team of people in the area of addiction and recovery, because these are not easily to find people. Like, for instance, there's a lot of things that I outsource, which I do. I've an amazing writer and copywriter named JR that does so much stuff for me. I have social media people. I have conversion experts. I have database people. There's a whole myriad of things that I outsource. And then I also have, a team of 11 full-time employees in the area of addiction recovery, which I currently don't make any money from. I do it because it's just lives are being lost every day because of the worst global addiction crisis in human history is where we're at right now. And so I'm building these platforms, but I try to bring in people that are A, in recovery, B, they understand addiction and they understand that addiction is a response to trauma, and they're very passionately interested in it, not from the financial ramifications, which is unfortunately a lot of people that treat addiction aren't really solving it. All they're doing is trying to figure out how to monetize human suffering. And I want to eradicate human suffering. I don't want to try to make money off of these people that are struggling. I want to help reduce or eliminate the suffering by getting to the core traumas and educating people about how addiction is a connection disorder. Everything that I do is about connection. And Genius Network is about connecting entrepreneurs. Genius Recovery is about connecting people struggling or, family members that are struggling with addiction, to connect them. So it's literally building that team of people. And I'd be curious to see, from your knowledge and everything, your expertise of that. And that could be a mental block for me, thinking that, I need to have people that are totally versed in recovery and are recovering addicts. Because I tend to find that people that don't have a personal experience with the pain of recovery can talk about it like they understand it, but they really don't understand it. And so, and you obviously don't want to have people that are in active addiction, running or heading up a lot of what you're doing, because when you're in active addiction, your life is a little out of control, or a lot out of control.
Well, right. I mean, I guess that goes back to thinking about what are you trying to solve for, right? And so if do you need people that understand it in order to overcome or achieve the goal, I guess, in some ways? And maybe you do.
Yeah. No, I think I do. I mean, I'm always exploring this every day. Like, for instance, I have a new addiction book that I did with our buddy Hal Elrod called The Miracle Morning for Addiction Recovery, which comes out, June 25th. At the time that we're doing this recording, that'll be here very shortly. And I had Anna David, who's one of our co-authors. And Anna's, been in recovery for many, many years, written 6 books on recovery, New York Times bestselling author. And, people that are in recovery, that are sober and that are driven and care. I mean, these people they work their asses off. They don't drink, they don't party. They're very interested in being of service to other people. And so, I want more of those people, and I want those people that actually, so I think that's it. So yeah, so some of the things that I'm working on right now are just building a team. Dan Sullivan has this great line that the skills that get you out of Egypt are not the same skills that get you to the promised land. So I have a great team. And my great team has got me up to where we're currently at right now. So the Einstein quote, the same level of thinking needed the same level of thinking that created the problem is not the same level of thinking needed to solve it. So as you keep going up different levels, you're always adding capabilities, because your current capabilities got you to where you're at right now. And in order for me to go beyond those capabilities, I need to bring in more capabilities. So right now it's more who's, I just need newer and different who's to keep climbing the ladder that I'm on. That's one area. Another is a perpetual challenge that you always hear me talk about, which is just the sheer volume of communication that I get. When you make yourself a little well known on purpose or accidentally, and I'm not sure if I did it on purpose, because I'm one of these guys that like shies away from this whole guru stuff and this whole personality brand while simultaneously running a business that, has me very much in the forefront. And I also have a love-hate relationship with the whole expert industry, the guru business, because I don't like referring to myself as a guru in any way, shape, or form. And it's I never take my PR seriously, good or bad, because I'm just a human that has a bunch of personal problems, just like anyone else. I'm just very driven, and in the areas that I'm very driven, I just try to drive in ways that I don't crash. And a lot of people, they're so driven, they're into active addiction, they're into complete workaholism. So with me, it's I have a lot of people that try to communicate with me, and so filtering it and simultaneously being a nice person is challenging. And when I mean nice person, I try to respond to people that reach out, and most people that reach out to me never get to me, but they get to my office. And I want my team to courteously respond to, if we can help someone, to direct them in how we can help them. If we can't help them, to nicely say, thank you for reaching out, but this is not, it's not a right fit for where we're at right now. It's just a lot, though. I mean, we have literally thousands of people every week are reaching out to my office to trying to get a hold of something related to me or one of the projects that we're involved in. And it's a lot. So that's always it's always kind of funny how to organize an avalanche. And I think I think a lot of people are sort of in that boat, and I think that's why a lot of people need what it is that you do, and not just the methodologies, but just the mindset. Because a lot of this is like, like what, off the, let me ask you a question. Like, how would you define overwhelm? Because a lot of times overwhelm is either real overwhelm or it's perceived overwhelm. So how would you define overwhelm?
Yeah, I think that there's like a tipping point for most people where if anytime you find yourself in that like sort of firefighting mode, right? I mean, that's whether you feel overwhelmed or not, that's sort of by definition, that's overwhelmed. If there's more, a more positive way of looking at it is if you have opportunity in excess of what your infrastructure will support. So you can see that as a positive or negative, right? So if you're suddenly on the cover of Time magazine and you have 1,000 people contacting you to work with you, but you don't have the capacity, that's overwhelm. And if you have 50 different people and family members and things needing things of you, and you don't have enough to support that, that's overwhelm. So anytime there's opportunity in excess of what your infrastructure will support, that's overwhelm. And that could be and just like you can have positive and negative stress, that can be positive, or most of the time it can be very negative for people.
Yeah, well, say, okay, so excess of what your infrastructure can support. I definitely currently in that state right now. And so I'm wanting to build that infrastructure.
Yeah. And so
and I think a lot of,
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I mean, that's what a lot of my clients are dealing with on a regular basis. And so, that's the booby trap of when you, I always tell people though, we're going to potentially create management problems for you if you actually use our marketing strategies and ideas. Because sometimes people that, I need more clients. And then here's what you need to do. And guess what? They need to get more clients. And then they start having, how do we handle it all? And I'm like, well, there you go. That's a much better problem to have than going broke and not having enough business. So, at least I think it is. Sometimes you actually can make too many sales. You can have too much business. So most people though do not go out of business for why'd you go out of business? I just had too many customers who wanted to buy our stuff. I mean, it's that's rarely the thing. Although I have seen it happen. I've seen people grow so fast that they something starts slipping. The service begins to to become terrible, or, the person, has a meltdown because they're not getting enough sleep. So, in my life, and I haven't even said much about this. I mean, my number one priority is taking care of the $1 million racehorse. Because if you got a racehorse that needs to win $1 million races, you don't shove fast food down its throat. You don't, give it lack of sleep. You don't let it drink, sodas, which is like liquid Satan. I mean, you feed it good food, you give it proper rest, proper nutrition, proper exercise. And if you do, that horse is going to win races. You don't, you make the environment for that horse very conducive to winning races. You don't have the horse, practicing on a track with barbed wire and broken glass and, crap everywhere. You literally, you give that horse what is needed for that horse to perform the best. And it's an analogy. However, like a lot of entrepreneurs that want to be $1 million producers, I mean, they treat themselves like shit. I mean, they work themselves to death. They don't have rest or relaxation. So, my thing is that's my first priority. Now, I did yoga yesterday. I work out almost daily. I meditate almost daily. I eat a very clean diet, and so once I have that foundation, then I'm like, okay, how do I perform and interact with all this other stuff?
Right. And so I'll just say one more point on that, and then we can sort of get to the last question because I want to be respectful of your time. A lot of times you really see there's a constraint, and a lot of times that constraint is the founder or the leader of some sort. And as you just said, you have to take care of the racehorse. So I really think that, all other things being equal, if you have a good idea and there's a market for your idea and, you're reasonably intelligent, like you should do okay. Maybe you won't be a unicorn, but you should do okay. And a lot of times that doesn't happen because of some sort of constraint. And usually that is the bottleneck that is the founder. And Vern Harnish has a really great saying, which is that, the bottleneck on a bottle is always at the top. So,
right.
So all right. So the last question.
Right. Well, no, it's true. And,
go ahead.
The fish rots from the head down is I think the mafia saying, right?
Exactly. And then there's also the whole extreme ownership idea too. So, but all right. So the last question that I always like to ask on these interviews, and you've answered this before, but your answers changed and I love them. So what are your top 3 pieces of advice for people to be more effective?
Okay, well, I would definitely say that as weird as this sounds, you have to be a fit animal. I mean, at the end of the day, I say this sort of sarcastically to be semi-amusing, but, humans are monkeys that drive cars, right? And pretty soon we probably won't even be driving cars. If you have children under the age of 10, they may never drive, because of autonomous vehicles in the future. But nonetheless, you got to be a fit animal. I mean, you have to really take care of the vessel that carries you around. At the end of the day, work is just a series of to-dos done in a certain way in order to produce a certain result. And so you have to take care of yourself. That's sleep, exercise, nutrition. That's one. The second is you need to cut ties with dishonest, negative, lazy people that have no integrity, that are not reciprocal. Align yourself with people that are aligned with you, that have a great value system. And third, focus on how you protect your attention. I mean, the number one thing for entrepreneurs to get something done is to be very aware and conscious of what gets your attention, and place your attention on things that matter to you, your own value system, your thing. And so, for instance, if what needs to be solved is you need to make more money, then you need to place attention on marketing, because marketing is the oxygen that makes a business work. So if a business or an entrepreneur is gasping for air, if you had all of your oxygen limited or taken away, you're gonna die. And so a business without marketing is going to be like an organism that has no access to the fuel it needs. So like a human, as an example, needs oxygen. So focus, give your attention to what needs solved. And that's why I place such a heavy emphasis on marketing, because marketing is everything as it relates to building and growing a business. And there are success recipes. There's recipes that work and there's recipes that don't work. So as you put your attention on a particular thing, you also need to have the thing that you're doing be something that actually works. And that's why it's really not very intelligent to try to reinvent the wheel. People confuse innovation with thinking they're being artistic and creative, when in many cases, some of the most innovative people only innovate the application of proven recipes. Like if you want to make a particular meal and it's like the most delicious meal ever, do you need to really be innovative, or do you simply, maybe your innovation is, well, I want to cook in a certain type of pan that doesn't have like toxic plastic that's going to come into this delicious meal. I mean, maybe that's your extent of innovation, but there's success recipes everywhere. And so reinventing the wheel is in many cases just an exercise in stupidity. And so my whole thing is, just what gets your attention and apply it. And if you do that, you don't need a lot of tools in your toolbox in order to be successful. You just need to apply them in a particular way. I mean, one of the biggest challenges with people today is they have so many options. And if you have 1,000 options, you don't have any options,
Absolutely.
as my friend Richard Rossi says. And so, just limit your focus and attention on the things that actually matter. Take really, really good care of yourself so that you are a fit animal, and don't hang around assholes. I mean, and if they come into your life, nicely exit them out the building, because some games in life, the only way you win is you don't play, and you're never going to win a game with someone that's a bad player. It just doesn't work in partnerships. It doesn't work in marriages. It doesn't work in joint ventures. It doesn't work with team members. I mean, you have to align yourself with people that are aligned with you. And you also have to be that sort of person too. There are some people that are just not very good entrepreneurs because they're not very good humans. And if I do yoga because yoga helps increase the space between reacting to life and responding to life. And so if I'm in a responsive state, I function better as a human. And if I'm in a reactive state, then I'm self-sabotaging. And in many ways, I'm being self-destructive. Like when I was in active addiction, I was reacting to everything. I mean, I was like a hot wire, and, you can't function very well with that sort of place. So you have to take care of yourself so that you can respond. And that means also surrounding yourself with people that are, healthy. But you have to be healthy yourself. So it's a two-way street, which means don't blame others. If where you're at right now is in many ways, as if you're an adult, it's because of you. It's the decisions you made. It's the books you've read. It's how you're spending your time. So that's, there's probably like 6 things wrapped up in there sounding to be disguised as 3, but the 3 things are your health, alignment, and what's get your attention.
Awesome. Well, you never fail to disappoint. Joe, thank you again. And so, first of all, thanks everyone for listening. Make sure to check out the LA event, and hopefully you can come and hang out with us and meet Joe and hear more about what he has to say. But in the meantime, Joe, where would you direct people to if they want to find out more about what you're working on?
joepolish.com. And if you're a really high level entrepreneur and you want to be part of the most amazing group, tribe of tribal leaders, check out, come to our annual event. I got Ray Kurzweil that I'm interviewing this year. I will have some of the highest level, most brilliant entrepreneurs sharing the newest, most effective things that have never been shared, that they're doing effectively, had never been shared before, and that'll happen at this year's Genius Network annual event. And so there's geniusnetwork.com, which is where people can access everything people want from me is my name, Joe Polish, like nail polish or shoe polish. joepolish.com will link to everything. If someone wants to come to our annual event, go to Genius Network Events with an S, geniusnetworkevents.com. And if you are struggling with addiction or have a family member or someone struggling with addiction, geniusrecovery.com, which is where we list every sort of community available for free podcasts and videos and articles, and currently nothing's being sold there. It's just a resource to help people that are struggling with addiction, because that's my passion project. So I want to be a hero to entrepreneurs and people that are struggling with addiction. That's my world. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you again, Joe.
Thanks for listening to the Less Doing podcast. If you'd like to get more done in less time, join our exclusive community of entrepreneurs and visionaries, the Less Doing Labs. It's free and just for you. Go to lessdoinglabs.com/more done.